Esther inquired of Trez on whether or not he was aware of the names of those birds, and she speculated that they might be pigeons. Trez informed her that information was incorrect and provided her with the correct name for the birds, which are referred to as the common gulls of the seagull. Then he inquired of Esther whether or not she was feeling cold in this strong wind, to which she responded that it is almost springtime, which means that she is able to tolerate it. They are currently on a ship that is traveling across the Atlantic Ocean. During this time, they were on board a beautiful cruiser known as the San Ariel. Father Nightroad, on the other hand, was of the opinion that there was something wrong with the fact that they were traveling in a luxurious cruiser. He believed that there was some sort of conspiracy involved. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that Father Nightroad was experiencing seasickness, as he promptly went to the loo. She apologized to Father Trez for persisting on following the two of them and also for causing a lot of difficulties, despite the fact that she had never expected that going to Rome would bring her on board such a ship. The simple response that Father Trez gave was that he simply carries out the directions that he is given. He also disclosed that he was informed 937 seconds before the departure that flying with her would not be a problem. On the other hand, he cautioned her that they must not behave in an undisciplined manner until they are in Rome. The activity that she took the day before, which resulted in some harm to her, was mentioned by him. Following that, Father Trez began his patrols around the ship. While Esther was standing on the board and taking in the beauty of the ocean, she came to the realization that she was actually leaving home. She was so overcome with emotion that she almost shed a tear. It was at that same moment that a gentleman dressed in a suit and hat approached her with a handkerchief to wipe her face. He then inquired as to whether she was feeling melancholy because she was missing her home, or because the beauty of the sunset was causing her to feel that way. After that, he responded by saying that if that is the case, then it is a coincidence because he was thinking about the same thing at the time. During the course of his conversation with her, the man used the far distance controller that he was testing to smack Esther on the back of her head. In response, he inquired as to whether or not she was okay and advised her to seek medical attention if she had sustained any injuries. In response to Esther's expression of gratitude for his concern and her admission that she had been somewhat dissatisfied, the man proceeded to discuss the handkerchief, which is something that is very personal to him. It belonged to her daughter, who is somewhat similar to Esther. However, she is currently sleeping. Despite the fact that the girl is unable to move, he added that she is extremely attractive. When Father Nightroad arrived, he spotted Esther with the man, and he cried out to Esther while maintaining a serious expression on his face as he stared at the man. Esther was under the impression that the man was a vampire. However, it was revealed that he is actually a professor. The professor met Father Nightroad when he was invited into the cabin room. He then briefed Father Nightroad about a couple of weird episodes that have been occurring in the area, and it is thought that these happenings are caused by a ghost ship such as the Mary Celeste or the Flying Dutchman, as well as the fact that it brought misfortune to anyone who witnessed them. And once they are ensnared by the mermaids singing from the quiet of the sun, there is no way for anyone to escape the shipwreck. Due to the absence of meaningful evidence concerning the occurrence, Trez does not believe the information that has been provided. When Father Nightroad asked the professor why he was on the ship rather than examining the mermaid, the professor responded by saying that this ship is actually the site to demonstrate his invention to the public and that Father Nightroad will be his helper. Father Nightroad then asked the professor why he was on the ship. It was proven that Father Nightroad's suspicions about the luxurious cruiser were correct, and that he is not making the most of his luck. After then, a young vocalist entered the room. It was well known that she had only recently made her first performance. She began to sing, then in the next line she ordered everyone to go to sleep. Her beauty left everyone, including Father Nightroad, speechless. She was so stunning that everyone was stunned. Prior to Esther falling asleep, she observed fangs emerging from the singer's mouth. Meanwhile, Father Nightroad made a concerted effort to remain awake, as he had come to the realization that it is extremely peculiar for everyone to fall asleep. However, he too succumbed to the temptation and fell asleep. Trez was the only one who did not sleep because he is not a human. He pointed his gun at her, and she responded by saying that she has no interest in a machine that does not have blood. He explained that his fluids cannot be used to produce hemoglobin capsules, and that the whole thing is a business. He stated that it is despicable and unacceptable for Methuselah to drink the blood of Terrans. Therefore, Methuselah requires their hemoglobin capsules in order to quench their thirst. This is the only way that she is able to survive. Trev was able to avoid the attack launched by her as she charged at him. He then proceeded to fire rounds at the singer, who had seemingly vanished. He then activated the search mode in order to look for her. But he ended up getting injured in the left elbow joint, which rendered it incapable of functioning any further. He exited the cabin and walked around the ship, searching for the singer but unable to find her. This indicates that she could only be in the ocean, as he was unable to locate her anywhere else. At that very instant, he was abruptly grabbed from behind and thrown into the water that was around him. After Trez came to the realization that the singer was in fact a mermaid, he found himself in a position of disadvantage because he was unable to defeat the mermaid in the water. In addition to inflicting additional harm on him, the mermaid was on the verge of dragging him to the depths of the ocean when Father Nightroad came to his rescue. The professor then explained that in order to counter her attack on such a fundamental level, one must have the same level of protection to which he revealed his proud invention, Earman. However, he was unable to comprehend how the professor and others could suddenly be in a state of health when they had been put to sleep just a few minutes earlier. It was then that Father Nightroad came to the realization that the Earman was the most recent invention that the professor had discussed, and that they were the guinea pigs for it. While they were having their conversation, Father Nightroad was dragged into the water by the mermaid who had the intention of killing him. He made the decision to abstain from using Crusnik until he was no longer in Esther's line of sight before he dealt with a mermaid. While this was going on, the professor requested Esther to gaze forward and revealed his research, which was a hefty android for sea battle called Poseidon WWGO. Although it disintegrated the very next second, it was still able to save Father Nightroad and capture the mermaid. After that, a Vatican airship arrived to fetch them up, and Sister Kate informed them that she was present because Lady Katharina had requested that she be here. When the professor urged the mermaid to retract her statements, she responded by saying that a block of metal did not stand a chance against a shark, stating that the situation had changed. When Esther arrived, Sister Kate greeted her as well, and then the three of them traveled to Rome. When they arrived in Rome, Sister Kate informed everyone that they will be reaching their destination in a little while. In the 5 months that have passed since that time, Esther has developed into a true sister who dresses appropriately for the occasion. During her trip down the street, she came across a cat, and before she embraced it, she made sure to check to see if the cat had a wet paw. Despite the fact that the Harmony in Rome is a peaceful place, she is unable to relax for some reason. She pondered whether or not this was due to the fact that she was searching for particular answers. When Father Trez unexpectedly arrived and shouted out the full name of his sister Esther, she was so frightened that she instantly hid the cat that he had brought with him. After that, she inquired as to what he was doing there, to which he said that it is against the law to abandon a center of the imperial Pope Palast, and that in addition, it is not permitted to keep animals in the government region. Sister Esther then inquired as to whether he still remembered her, to which he consented. She continued by stating that she had been working as a member of His Holiness Ministry of State Affairs, performing professional duties employment since the 20th of February. She also mentioned that she had completed the 5-month training and that she would be transferred to the investigation section. Sister Esther, who had recently acquired the status of a formal sister in His Holiness Ministry of State Affairs, observed that Father Trez did not even appear to be sweating despite the fact that it was a boiling summer. After that, she inquired about Father Nightroad as well. Father Trez informed her that he is on his way to them and is currently in the company of the Duchess of Milan, Catherine Sforza, who was also the Cardinal of His Holiness Ministry of State Affairs and a leader of the government in the Vatican. In spite of the fact that Sister Esther was perplexed as to why the Duchess of Milan was spending time with Father Nightroad, she requested that Father Trez give her some space, alleging that she was suffering from a stomach ache, and she subsequently fled. During this time, Father Nightroad appeared to have heard a voice that he had heard before, but he was unable to identify the person who was speaking to him. The Duchess of Milan informed him that the person who was speaking to him was his sister Esther, and that she had been standing there for some time. She also stated that Esther is an outstanding young lady, as she has won the first prize in every training. Father Nightroad was pleased with the remarks that were made to Sister Esther, which prompted the Duchess of Milan to inquire as to whether or not he considers her to be his daughter. She then inquired as to whether or not Sister Esther and Dietrich from the Rosenkreuz are acquainted with one another. Father Nightroad did not provide her with a direct response, and the Duchess of Milan, Lady Katerina, requested that he get in touch with the Empire because she had given the matter an appropriate amount of thought, as well as the fact that the crown of Methuselah is ruled by vampires and is intended to keep the Vatican in a state of equilibrium for hundreds of years. Sister Loretta came over to meet Lady Katerina with an urgent message. She informed her that the vampire who was being held captive in St. Angelo had, after receiving the water of life, murdered the jailer. Subsequently, the vampire broke through the bars of the outer circle of the jail and escaped. This occurred not long after the naked and bloodless body of one of the sisters was discovered at the confessional. After hearing this, Father Nightroad requested that Sister Loretta and Lady Katerina be relocated to a more secure location as soon as possible. It was observed that Esther, the sister, was conversing with the cat at that time. When she saw that Father Nightroad had a different expression with Lady Katerina, who is such a gorgeous lady, she'd appeared to be worried by the circumstance. At this point, she came to the realization that she had no prior knowledge of him. During the time that she was arguing, a sister who was hurt was spotted calling out to her sister Esther for assistance. Esther instantly raced towards her and inquired about what was happening with her. After that, the injured sister went on to tell that a vampire had escaped from jail, that she had been attacked, and that the vampire was intent on taking Lady Katerina's life. When Sister Esther heard this, she became concerned because she was aware that Lady Katerina was in close proximity to St. Angelo at the time that the outbreak occurred within the community. She asked the injured sister if she knew where the other victims were, to which she responded that she did not know because she was the only victim at the time of the attack since she was by herself. This was surprising to Sister Esther because, according to her, a vampire would have no problem killing a lonely girl. As a result, she inquired about the fate of the injured sister and how she managed to survive. As a result of the fact that she had witnessed the quickness of a vampire on multiple occasions, Sister Esther was aware that it was impossible to escape from a vampire. In addition, the UV protection gel is the only means by which a vampire can move around during the middle of the day. At that precise moment, a father could be seen exclaiming to his children that it is risky because the vampire had previously taken the life of a sister. Just as he was about to finish his speech, the injured sister abruptly beheaded him with her fangs that had grown out of her fingers. At this point, Sister Esther came to the realization that the individual in question was the vampire who had managed to flee. This individual asserted that Sister Esther is pretty intelligent for a Terran, given that it is a fact that no one can escape from a Methuselah who is on the run, and the fact that she had consumed blood during her lengthy vacation from her incarceration, which meant that the only option left for her was to locate Lady Katerina and kill her. After that, Sister Esther inquired as to the reason behind her pursuit of Lady Katerina, to which she responded that it was for the purpose of establishing her honor, as all of the Terrans would be humiliated and disgraced, and that she would take the head of Lady Katerina with her to the Empire. After that, Sister Esther stated that the vampire could not harm Lady Katerina because she is protected by the most powerful people in the Vatican. This prompted the vampire to attack Sister Esther, who had fallen towards the location of the fountain. Sister Esther then had the idea to pull the vampire into the water, which washed away the UV protection gel. The vampire was furious because she wanted to kill her, but then she realized that the UV protection gel had been rinsed away, and her skin had started to burn as a result of the sun's rays at high noon. Following this, Father Nightroad and Trez came to the rescue of Sister Esther, and they confirmed that the vampire had, in fact, passed away as a result of the blast of sunlight. As a result of the assistance provided by Sister Esther, Father Nightroad was thankful for the reduction in the amount of damage. After that, he handed her his jacket so that she could cover herself, and he expressed his excitement about the prospect of working with her. The purpose of Sister Kate's visit was to provide Lady Katerina with information regarding the aftermath of the incident that was caused by the vampire, as well as to inform her about its capabilities. On the other hand, Lady Katerina was not impressed, as she asserted that Sister Esther is not capable of dealing with a vampire on her own, and that she was simply fortunate in this situation. This was followed by a discussion over the matter of telling Father Nightroad that the AXE are currently attempting to establish communication with the Empire once more. When Lady Katerina realized that they were standing on a precarious bridge, she realized that if the information were to be shared with their supporters, it would result in the complete and utter destruction of the nation of the Vatican. This is because the Empire is a fierce adversary of the Vatican. During this time, a courier from the Empire is dispatched to meet them at the city of Carthago, which is one of the free cities. During the course of her covert operation, Sister Esther was able to apprehend Professor Pietro, who, following his removal from his position at the Vatican, had unlawfully duplicated the software that he was responsible for and claimed it as his own. She proceeded to ask Father Nightroad, who was wasting time looking for the handcuffs, to bring them over to her. Father Nightroad congratulated her on successfully completing her first mission in Carthago. During their conversation, they talked about the criminal they had arrested, who had previously worked as a computer engineer for the Vatican. Father Nightroad expressed his thoughts that he did not anticipate that they would be able to capture him so easily. When Sister Esther was with the criminal, he told her that he had just finished a task because he had discussed the possibility of creating a sandstorm in response to the request of the magicians. Sister Esther then revealed what the criminal had talked about. Afterwards, they make their way to the embassy, where the Vatican is hosting a party for its guests. He spoke about Lady Katerina, whose work may appear to be fairly enviable. Yet she is required to move about quite a bit, and in order to ensure that the Vatican continues to preserve its credibility, she was also required to travel to Carthago. Sister Esther learned that Father Nightroad and Lady Katerina had known one another for 10 years, to the point where it was almost as if they had grown up together. Lady Katerina is also known as the Iron Lady. As the Father Nightroad continued to ramble on, he became aware that his sister Esther was no longer physically there with him. Esther was later observed in a different location, with her stomach growling. After the morning, she had not consumed any food at all. Her thoughts turned to the true reason she had traveled to Rome, which was to inquire about the fate of Jula and the other members of the church, and she wondered if they had all passed away. Father Trez then came over, and when he saw her, he asked what she was doing. She responded that she wanted to go to the cell where the computer engineer who had been arrested was being held, but she got lost. Father Trez offered to take her to the cell, stating that it is the duty of every member of the AXE service to offer assistance to a colleague who is in need of assistance while she is on a mission. Sister Esther then asked him if he could tell her anything about Father Nightroad, as she does not know anything about him. He responded by saying that he is unable to do so because Sister Esther is a regular officer and does not have sufficient access to the information of an ASC agent. Sister Esther then apologized for asking such a question on his part. On the other hand, he recommends that she should immediately inquire with Father Nightroad rather than spending her time looking for information elsewhere. Then, when they arrived at the cell where Father Trez was going to leave, he noted that Sister Esther was unable to open the door because it was too hot. It was then that he assisted her in opening the door. In addition, they found a figure of Professor Pietro that had been burned, which suggests that an individual had entered the cell from the outside and then burned the suspect to death at a high temperature. A fang mark was found on the deceased, which indicates that the vampire is still present in the room, as observed by Father Trez. When the vampire suddenly attacked them from the ceiling, Father Trez asked Sister Esther to duck, and he immediately went into war mode with his gun out and shot silver bullets at him. Sister Esther was taken aback by the vampire's ability to simply avoid being hit by those gunshots. Another discovery made by Father Trez was that the adversary possesses a pyrokinetic ability that is categorized as a Type F Ifrit. In light of this, Father Trez requested that Esther relocate to a secure location. Father Trez was then attacked by the vampire, which caused him to fall to the ground. It was at this point that Father Nightroad arrived, and to his surprise, he was also assaulted. He returned with his revolver, only to find that he had vanished. It was then that Father Trez warned Father Nightroad that he ought to pursue the vampire because it was possible that the vampire's true goal was the VIP who was present in the embassy. This indicates that Lady Katerina is in danger. Lady Katerina was in her room when she became aware of a burning odor, which was followed by the abrupt appearance of a female vampire appearing behind her and requesting that she remain still. She continued to look about, despite the fact that she was experiencing a great deal of anxiety. and she found out that it was a vampire. It was with great wrath that the vampire asserted that he was the imperial envoy that Lady Katerina had been looking forward to receiving. On the other hand, Father Trez fired a shot at the vampire, which caused him to believe that they had been betrayed by the Vatican. He then left and met with Radu, her companion, who inquired about the mission. As a response, Ion stated that she had been shot by the Vatican and that they have no choice than to serve them or perish, and that she has made her choice. In the moment that their flying ship entered the airspace of the new city, the commander of the Air Force there took the microphone and addressed them while they were still in the air. He informed them that they were not permitted to land since the Air Force had not verified their qualifications. It is certain that the individual who was traveling on the aircraft was either an agent of the Vatican or an agent that had been dispatched by the Vatican. Although they were on a mission, he responded from within the aeroplane that they did not have the authority to stop him because they were on assignment. In the regular way that they call it, the Holy Mission is being convened to investigate the attempted assassination of Cardinal Sforza that has taken place in the city. As a means of providing evidence for his claim to oppose the claim or order of the airspace management that they should refrain from landing in the city, the individual who was riding in the aircraft even used the Vatican law. There were a number of people, including Father Trez, among those who were inside the aircraft. The airspace management does not appear to be responding to them, and they have made charges that they will shoot them down if the Vatican Inquisitions refuse to address them or follow their orders. As a result of this, Father became extremely unstable, and his sister Kate, who had observed that he was becoming agitated, informed him that it has always been like this, ever since the ancient times, that the Inquisition of the Vatican or simply the Vatican agent has always been in conflict with the Carthago people, for one reason or another. She then said that regardless of what the airspace personnel are saying to them at this moment, they will not cause any trouble with it in order to preserve the legitimacy of the Vatican. In the presence of the Duchess, Father Trez accompanied her and supervised her as she disclosed to him that the Inquisitions had taken control of the entire city of Carthago. According to the Duchess, the Inquisitions are a group of individuals who are also referred to as the Fangs of the Vatican. These individuals were established by the Vatican in order to combat any opposition to the Vatican and to eliminate any vampire that they come across, regardless of whether or not the vampire actually belongs to the Imperial Envoy organization. Father Trez responded to her by saying that the calculations had been made as a machine, despite the fact that there were countless permutations and many different outcomes that may occur in the event that one of their agents were to face or have a conflict with the investigating authorities. Sister Esther is currently accompanied by her father, who is observing a group of individuals. The majority of them are males, via the binoculars. They are doing this while they are on the Nightroad. She was reading out the reason for being there while she was holding his hand. It would appear that they are there for the purpose of conducting an investigation, despite the fact that it is a secret regarding the murder of Bromini, who was just killed yesterday. They are scrutinizing the belongings that are with them in order to determine the reasons and methods behind his death or murder. Sister Esther was with another woman at the time, and she was telling her about the phantom firm that belonged to the empire. She also emphasized that the free city of Carthago has a significant number of companies of this kind. In light of everything that has been discussed, Sister Esther Blanchette was curious to inquire about whether or not her father's eyes could be fixed or healed. However, she responded by saying that she does not need to focus on her father's eyes but rather on herself, and that she believes that he has a good hearing that will be of assistance to him when he is in danger. When they drew closer to Father Nightroad, they noticed that he was looking through a brochure that was in his hand. When they asked him to be shocked, he revealed that the pamphlet was an underground map of the water channel that included the entire region in which they were currently located. The map was so comprehensive that if Father Nightroad was particularly concerned, he would be feeling anxious since he had anticipated that it would be nothing more than a sketch map of the location. But it turned out to be something else entirely. During the time that Father Nightroad was reviewing the results, he saw the Cabrel Eliza at the next location of their mission. This location had been labeled as Seal ever since the death of a well-known lieutenant named Joliet. Since that time, the location has been sealed off from the outside world, making it impossible for anyone to reach it. As soon as Sister Esther recognized the name Lieutenant Juliet, she became intrigued about his identity. Despite the fact that it was getting late, Father Nightroad Quick was making preparations to relocate them from where they were. However, his sister Esther continued to be a source of distraction for him. But he did not give in to her demands. Because of the amount of heat that it caused, particularly during the name, he was even making fun of the garments that the Vatican had given them. It would appear that Father Nightroad has prepared for this mission to be carried out by himself, since the Vatican has mandated that it be carried out by him alone. As a result, he went into the shadows. His sister made an increasing number of attempts to follow him, but he discouraged her from doing so and did not engage in any conversation with her about the mission on any occasion. After hearing this, she experienced a state of instability. Yet, she managed to keep her fury to herself and managed to convince herself that she should not be furious. While Radu was standing by her side, the woman who had been shot with a silver bullet, whose name is Ion, has finally come to consciousness. She yelled out her frustration at the fact that the silver bullet has prevented her from achieving her objective. She expresses her irritation by stating that the silver bullet, which was caused by Terran, is even more harmful to their bodies than ultraviolet radiation. She also implies that Venus is the source of the silver bullet, which she denies. In spite of the fact that Radu suggested that since the meeting was unsuccessful, it would be best for them to head home, she insisted that she would follow the order of Augusta to try the same meeting again. She did this by placing her right hand on her chest with full confidence. It appears that they have come to the area in order to have a meeting with the Terran. However, they ambushed them as they would have always done. After that, she requested that Radu provide her with some water and opium because she had been lying down for the entirety of the day and had not consumed anything throughout that time. During the time that he was going to get what he had sent him, he complained that he had been adding an excessive amount of sugar recently. During the time that she was lying down to sleep once more, she was pondering the possibility that the vampires would be unable to walk in the light. However, before she could find an answer to that thought, she heard a footstep going closer to her. She thought it was Radu, and she said before looking up that the guy was very fast. As soon as Esther realized that Ion, who was still laying on the bed, was a vampire, she aimed her gun at him and threatened to shoot him if she moved. However, in the meanwhile, Radu appeared from the kitchen with a knife in his hand and said that he would throw the knife at her if she did not leave him by his side. On the other hand, Radu's father Nightroad was holding a gun to his head, and he threatened that if he shot the knife, he would discharge the gun. Following the surrender of the vampires, he accused Esther for disobeying him. He then confronted the vampires, who complained that they were from the aristocrats of the empire. After that, he gave Sister Esther a very hard smack. He then knelt down to the green, both Ion and Radu, claiming that he was sent here to defend them since they were both nobility. This occurred after he had spent some time attempting to verify the legitimacy of both parties. As they continued to converse, an armor tank begins to fire on the building, claiming that it was the order of Brother Petros, who stated that all of the vampires in the building had been brought under the authority of the Inquisitions. Father Petros then let Ion, Radu, and Esther to flee, leaving him behind. A man named Petros, wearing a helmet, was observed introducing himself to Abel Nightroad as the chief of the Inquisition department, while Abel Nightroad introduced himself as someone from Foreign Affairs, also known as the Knight of Destruction. Actually, Abel Nightroad was known as the Vatican's strongest and fiercest knight. During the Battle of Bosnia roughly 4 years ago, Abel was able to destroy one of the heretics' armies as well as another individual. As a result, he thought himself a powerful infantry soldier who would slaughter his own people. Petros stated that he was now looking for the perpetrators of the assassination attempt from a few days ago, and that he expected Abel to assist him as well, because he is also a member of the Vatican and so expected Abel to assist him in carrying out his holy duty. However, Abel declined, stating that he would not do it. Rather, he claimed that he is seeking the same person as Petros is. He informed Petros that his employer is horrific, and that if he disobeyed her orders, she would punish him so horribly that he would never be able to face the world as a human being again. Nonetheless, Abel continued to attack Petros' men, but this time he decided to start shooting Petros. But to his great surprise, Petros could not feel a single bullet in his body and was simply laughing, which amazed Abel because he wondered why he could be smiling when he should be scared. Abel Nightroad continued to shoot at Petros, but nothing happened to him. Petros observes that he has tried for a long time and informs him that bullets have no impact on him because of his Crusader's shield, which absorbs all strikes. When Abel realized he was already dissatisfied, he considered what he could do next. During that time, Petros told him to accept his divine punishment from him. Furthermore, Petros had previously requested God's assistance in destroying Abel with his wrath. But Abel replied Petros that he couldn't just call on God because God only helps those who help themselves. Petros, on the other hand, did not want to dispute with Abel again, so he remained silent and let Abel handle the situation on his own. But he insisted on killing Abel and avenging the captain. Just then, he decided to set up a holy war between men in order to put Abel to the test since he underestimated him. And when Abel heard him, he was overjoyed because he believed so highly of him to that point. Meanwhile, Petros did not want Bel to interrupt what he was doing, but Abel informed Petros that the humiliation he was causing him was the penance for his arrogance. However, Abel consented to battle Petros, who told him to submit in the fight and mockingly stated that he should not lose another limb as a result of the fight. Abel was not particularly tense this time because he knew Petros was underestimating him. Surprisingly, Petros produced a pain reliever with the syringe, claiming that he wants to escalate the situation, but Abel advised him not to waste his time because he could simply go to the hospital. So he replied that he would go to the hospital later, after defeating Abel. Then, unexpectedly, he crushed on Abel. Abek was already relaxed because they were talking at the time. But Abel did not lose himself, since he used the vampire's acceleration against Petros, which is similar to his power. Petros was surprised and unable to close his mouth. However, Petros was well prepared for Abel, how he brought out a serum produced by the Vatican to combat vampire acceleration. Although it was his first time using it, the struggle required it, so he hoped that when Abel died, Father Nightroad would be honored wherever he went. Petros bowed goodbye after being requested to administer the divine punishment to Abel, who was bleeding profusely on his face. Everyone was proud of Petros for finally killing Abel. They were happy he killed him because Abel was so disrespectful to him. But Petros warned his people not to speak ill of Abel because he believes in retribution. Since they are all serving the Lord, he knew that everyone should be forgiven after the conflict so that they might pray for Abel's eternal rest, which is recognized to be the duty of God's warriors. He prayed with his troops on Abel's body, then instructed his soldiers to go out and find the vampires who attempted to slay Sforza, as they needed to apprehend them. He fled to seek for additional vampires, leaving only his men. 10. One of Petros' ladies was observed standing alone by herself when another lady approached, pitying Petros. But the Petros lady requested the lady, who was a Terran, not to touch her since she did not want to come into contact with a Terran. So she warned the Terran lady, looking fierce. However, the Terran lady showed her own crop color as well, because she remained calm during the tiny girl's yelling. Even this time, the little girl was taken aback because she had not expected the Terran lady to be so aggressive. Yet, the Terran lady was not afraid of a small child like her. The Terran lady eventually lost her rage and chose to take care of the child, apologizing for injuring her, despite the fact that she was attempting to kill the boy at the time due to the way she addressed him. Iseb, the young child, did not expect the Rarin to shoot at her for no reason. However, Esther came around and told a story about a vampire named Methuselah, who had slain someone in the embassy, whereas, if a Methuselah appeared alongside Cardinal Sforza, anyone would have taken action. She told the narrative to the young child and the Terran. She even believed that what happened in the story was an act of extremism. So Esther left the young baby that the radicals Shar met earlier, which are the individuals who disagree with the Empress' decision yet continue to prepare a war with the Terrans. Furthermore, Esther had heard rumors among the aristocracy that some were opposed to imperial kissing and would stop at nothing to launch the war. She had seen how those folks intended to sabotage their goal. While they were still talking, some Tuarams appeared unexpectedly, and before they knew it, Esther was detained as the small girl yelled for those men to release her, revealing that Esther is not a vampire after all. But the Terrans were perplexed because an informant merely told them about a vampire, who appeared to be the small girl. So Petros ordered his soldiers not to kill Esther or the small girl, but rather to bring both of them alive so that he could ask them some questions. Petros urged his guys to inject the girl's voice with liquid silver so she would settle down. Radu suddenly emerged, apologizing to the little girl for being late, and the girl indicated how concerned she was because Dad had been gone so long. While Radu was handing over the key to the small girl, Hyam, a Terran girl, noticed Radu and the little girl together and requested the little girl to leave Radu, whom she knew as the Barum of Luxor. Ian was perplexed at first, but the girl insisted on leaving him for a moment because she had a question for Radu. So she asked Radu if he was speaking to himself when he previously mentioned fanatics. Ian was unable to accept the fact that Radu was the cover agent. In fact, he even asserted that he was the one who had saved them. On the other hand, Radu himself asserted, much to his astonishment, that it is in fact true, and that it is much simpler to initiate a war between Methuselah and Terran if the messenger is killed by a Terran. Radu continued by saying that he was the one who informed the Terrans about the safe home located above them, and that they ought to have decided to kill his companion. Due to the fact that he was the one who prevented Lady Katerina and Ion from meeting last night, and the reason for this is because it is for Methuselah's future. He asserted that it is not possible for Methuselah to coexist with Terrans, yet their empress is interested in negotiating with the Terrans. But that is not how he would like things to go. In addition, he had always been envious of Ion, and the empress does not favor him. So the only thing he can do is modify the rules, or more accurately, change the world by using fire to regenerate the world whole. Additionally, this was the motto of the group that was known as Rosenkreuz. In order to alter the rules of the race conflict, he asserted that he would not hesitate to take any action under any circumstances. Then, all of a sudden, he vanished behind his sister Esther, and he was holding the gun with her. He was going to pull the trigger, but an investigator who was startled to find that a vampire was shooting another vampire intervened and prevented him from doing so. Following that, he charged at Radu in a fit of rage and assaulted him, telling him that he was going to be punished by God. During this time, Esther, the sister, was concerned that regardless of which side prevailed, it would not be beneficial for them. Radu, who was surprised that the Inquisition did not appear to be injured despite the fact that he attacked with his fire, continued to be attacked by the Inquisition. As Sister Esther raced away from the conflict, Father Nightroad yelled out to her to get aboard the ship as soon as possible. She instantly grabbed Iam and took him with her. In an effort to prevent Iam from escaping, Radu immediately began to pursue them. Despite Father Nightroad's attempts to stop him by shooting at him, he was able to avoid all of the shots. After that, he arrived at Ion and was intending to kill him. However, Radu was attacked, and as a result, he fell into the water. During this time, Ion experienced a state of unconsciousness, from which he awoke after having a dream about his history with Radu. He awoke to saw his sister Esther standing next to him. She had already attended to his wounds. Nonetheless, he is regretting the fact that he was unable to comprehend his friend Radu, and that he would have died if that was what his friend wanted, because he is the only friend he has. Immediately, Sister Esther comforted him and informed him that she is with him. Iam responded by saying that she is exceptionally remarkable because he is thankful for the assistance that she has provided. In spite of the fact that they saw that Father Nightroad appeared pale, he assured them that it was nothing to worry about and that he would fetch them some tea. Father Nightroad arrived to check on them. After some time had passed, Father Nightroad went to take a shower in order to wash his wounds. He had been injured, but he did not want his sister Esther to know about it. When Sister Esther entered the room, she observed that there was no light on. She then encountered Father Nightroad, who was conversing with himself. She inquired about it, and he said that it was nothing. It is clear to her that the reason she grew emotional was due to the fact that Father Nightroad does not have faith in her being.